How's it going, my friends? So this is Lord Laverne, and I'm back. And today I have the book by Kenneth Minogue on politics, and the Oxford series is excellent for learning about a topic. And I really want to write about political theory because I studied philosophy, a lot of history, and I wanted to share with you guys my insights. I also want to explore political philosophy in these upcoming months. Expect a bunch of essays on Marx, Karl Marx, Rousseau, Jacques Rousseau, Thomas Hobbes, Leviathan, John Locke, and a lot of other authors. But I'm starting from the Kenneth Minogue essay or Oxford Introduction because I think that it covers all the bases. It starts from ancient Greece. It starts from the conception of what it means to what is political in our modern world, and there's a progressive definition that everything is political, and Minogue criticizes that. Then it goes to the ancient Greeks, then to the Romans, and then it moves all the way to the modern state. And let's go at it, my friends. And this is my book, chapter by chapter breakdown, Kenneth Minogue, Politics Introduction, Chapter 1, Why Despots Don't Belong in Politics. Introduction to the author. He's conservative, he's Australian, he moved to the UK, he studied at the London School of Economics, and he was reacting against the 1960s liberals and progressives. Fun fact, he was a tennis fan. And I'll be adding some fun facts here and there, because I know sometimes the British audience likes humor, and as well the American audience, they always want to make things accessible for the average person. So I think that maybe peppering the essay with like a fan fact or something, I'll do that sometimes. The book is part of the excellent Oxford series where experts write introductory work on many topics. For instance, in some of Aristotle's, there's one on objectivism and there's one on medieval Britain. I'm very interested in medieval Britain and even earlier, the Norman period, because I'm very fascinated between the interaction between French culture and English culture, and I think there's a lot on that topic that hasn't been explored, and I really want to contribute and give my ideas on that. Reflection. In everything of inquiry, there's a general introduction, and there's a more expert take on a subject or debate. Some fields of inquiry seem to be more about a group of questions, and you have a small pool of writers who try to address them. This would be analytic philosophy, where the field is dominated by a few group of thinkers, all at odds with each other. However, they're trying to address a small set of questions. Having studied analytic philosophy, I feel that I know the most about how the discipline works as opposed to other disciplines. Guys, let's continue. So as I said, every field of inquiry, especially analytic philosophy, is just a group of people, a small group of thinkers like Aristotle, Plato, Hobbes, Locke, Wittgenstein, Machiavelli, Nietzsche, Freud. So it's just a small, well, that's Freud count as analytic. But anyway, the idea is that there's only a small group of thinkers, Berkeley, and those are the important ones. And then everybody else is just trying to debate and figure out what are the answers. And I'm gonna issue my critique of analytic philosophy in another video. Despite that, for this video I want to focus on the Kenneth Minogue book. And also Minogue, it's an Irish last name, so if I'm pronouncing it wrong, feel free to leave it in the comments. But anyway, so introductory chapter. First observation is that Kenneth Minogue highlights the importance of a common sense worldview of politics. Side note, I think ever since Edmund Burke, common sense is highly prized in British society. For instance, Ed Ruskin writes, dismissiveness and hostility towards theory has long been a bulwark of British conservative ideology. That Gardiner identifies, this is a reference to the Scottish professor Michael Gardiner, and I don't want to get into the, like, if this is right or not, you know, and what are the consequences. My priority right now is just to say that Minogue represented a conservative stance towards the more progressive and liberal view, and sometimes extreme as well. Like, both sides can be extreme, you know, left and right, but he's just answering to those guys who think that politics is everything. Minogue criticizes thinkers like Thomas Mann, who tried to give political meaning to every other human endeavor. being, for instance, going on a date, thinking out love, or going fishing. Minogue writes, "This is certainly true for a lot of boards in universities who believe that one can't enjoy a poem without at the same time making a political statement. I believe this to be a valid point. Many progressives have this idea that everything is political, hence their latest incursion into American comic books." And that's a completely other topic, but I thought about it because I will also touch on that. What I learned. And for this book, what I'm doing is I'm just writing what I learned, what are my conclusions, because I'm learning about the topic at this point and not creating my own thoughts. So despotism comes from the natural order, or how Chinese thinkers used to say or call it the mandate of heaven. Society is rigid and dynasties can rise or fall, but the other person's life remains the same. Despots come in a wide range, but they're often stereotyped as negative. Cruel pharaohs, deranged Roman emperors like Caligula and Nero, exotic and remote emperors in China or India. Greeks disliked the wide difference between the rulers and the subjects. Prostration is a posture where you bow down to your superior. Greeks and Romans reserved this kind of worship exclusively for the divine and not between people. So Minogue is saying that Greeks thought that Oriental people, and I know some people would say Edward Said, and I plan on reading his books as well, his critique of this view, that Greeks thought that people just in the Oriental world just bow down to their superiors and just follow what they said. Well, Greeks thought that people were equal and you shouldn't be bowing down to anyone. The essence of despotism is there's no rejection appeal that was checking the power of the ruler. As I think Montaigne, he's a French writer, by the way. It's a different thinker, but there's no parliament, no opposition, no press. Subjects focus less on political matter or empirical matters and more on spiritual endeavors. So once people don't have political power, they just focus on spiritual endeavors. Primitive life have become regulated, for instance. So that's the question I have. I think it's Minogue starting that everything controversial is seen as political, and hence the term personal is political. So this is the slogan of the progressive left, that everything is political. Every act you do, it's political. For instance, that's why they attribute this whole power dynamics. And if you guys see the debate between Minogue and William F. Buckley, Buckley says he once handed a feminist a cigarette or lit her cigarette. I think it was the second one. He lit her cigarette and the feminist was just really upset because there's a power dynamic going on and that she was feeling inferior. So people who have this very progressive agenda, or even people on the right, potentially people on the right side of the spectrum as well, they'll believe that everything you do, it's a power relationship. And maybe Foucault talked about it as well. I might read his stuff later as well. But he's criticizing this idea that personal is political. Names and reality in the world of politics, limitation of the Japanese Prime Minister, Stalin's bogus constitution. And we're going to touch on constitutions next week or in a few days. But the idea is that Stalin created a constitution that he didn't follow through. While in the quote-unquote Western world or English-speaking world, if you have a constitution, you're supposed to follow it very closely. And original definition, the action of monarchs, parliament, and ministers were the political committed who hinder them. Government expansion has helped politicians to want all good things in a nation to be attributed to politicians and their policies, while the detractors want all bad things in society to be attributed to the politicians and their government. So we see two camps. One of them is saying it's the politicians, and they say everything good that happens in a nation is because of them. For instance, they're able to bring bands from different countries to play music. It's just an example. And then their detractors are saying everything bad that happens. For instance, let's say if there's on a TV a show, people might say, oh, that show is satanic, and they blame the politicians. Everything has to be made into political, and that's the era we're living in, and this is what Minogue was concentrating about. Politics have impacted history a lot, where political actors bring themselves and their actions posthumous fame, where they see history redeeming them. And he gives the example of Che Guevara, the revolutionary, and he says that Che and other people like him view themselves as graffiti artists of history, and they're trying to achieve immortality through fame. Maybe that's true, because consider the essay I wrote the other day. George Orwell, he's very famous, and he was so into politics, while other authors who weren't that interested in politics seem to be sidestepped. What questions are left? Why is it that why is it that some people who are highly religious do seem politically involved? Especially in America, I've seen that in the United States, I've seen that a lot of very religious people are politically involved, and they also want to advocate for their causes. And alright, my friend, let's continue. So what questions are left? Why is it that highly religious people are somewhat politically involved, especially in America? What are the philosophies of withdrawal? In classical times, everything in society was the property of the despot. Is this the case? Key term, the personal is political. What does this exactly mean? This is a cause of tension in the 21st century. In the 20th century, what does a theater of illusion mean? What is the distinction between political life, private life, and social life? And it's an interesting phrase. Revolutionaries are the graffiti artists of history. So skepticism, progressivism is fake humility. It shows the superiority of our current culture over the past cultures and the internal cultures. And this is a very, I like to end with this because it's a very interesting observation, which I think is true. The idea that many progressives see themselves as superior to the other cultures, which are quote unquote intolerant, and they also are claiming superiority over cultures of the past who they didn't have their values. And I have to give a concrete example, but it seems when it comes to certain issues of identity, it seems progressives are always advocating for multiple identities, and they question why people wouldn't accept that. But it seems in more conservative societies, people have very much more fixed identities and prefer it that way. So we're seeing that tension. And my friends, I'm gonna next week or in this next video, I'm gonna explore more the Greeks as well as the Constitution, and I'm very excited about that. I'm very happy I'm writing these essays because I really wanted to get into political theory, and I'll do that book by book that chapter by chapter breakdown, because that's what I really like. This systematic analysis and breaking everything down in small pieces. I feel that's the best that analytic philosophy can offer. But I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Thank you very much. Like, comment, subscribe.